Hey everyone, my name is Brittany Joiner, and for the next hour, I'm going to show you how you can build the exact custom automations that you want in Jira to up-level your Jira experience for you and your team. Let's go ahead and get started. So, first of all, I'm going to start today by telling you a little bit who I am. I'm going to see why you should care about what we're about to talk about and why it's exciting. I'm going to give you some inspiration and show you what I mean, because just saying automation in Jira probably isn't all that clear right now. But don't worry, we'll get to that, and I'll show you how to make all of this come to life. This isn't just a talk where you're going to sit here and you're going to hear about some theory. We're actually going to put our fingers to keyboard and actually build some things together. And so if that's something you're interested in, stick around, because this is a super practical session. You may want to have another screen up to actually dig in and get hands-on with me here. And then I'm going to show you next steps for now that you know how to automate things, what you can do to further your automation journey. So if that sounds good, I'll start by telling you a little bit about myself and why you're sitting here with me right now. My name is Britt Joiner. I am the head of developer relations at PixieBrix, which is a low-code browser automation tool that I'm obviously going to be talking a little bit about today. But one of the things that I've always been super interested in is automation, because life is too short to spend your time opening tabs, copying and pasting things, moving things around. And it's actually one of the things that drew me to Trello many, many years ago, which is how a lot of you here may know me as the #1 Trello fan, super nerd. And I do love Trello. I'm excited by it. It's one of my favorite tools. And why am I here talking at a Jira conference? Because a lot of the automation things that I built in Trello on top of my browser are things that you can apply to Jira as well. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And you might be like, wait a minute, what are you talking about? Like Jira automation, that lives in a different place than Trello automation. It does, but not when you're working in the browser automation. We're not talking about Jira's suite of automation tools today. And I'll tell you more about what I mean by that just in a minute. But you can trust me because I'm an Atlassian community leader. And so I have spent tons of time in the community finding out ways people are using different tools. I was here last year giving a talk about Trello versus Jira. And so those of you here who are using Jira, that's awesome. If you're using Trello, that's fantastic too. You're going to find some cool tips and tricks in today's session that you can use no matter what tool you're using. So let's get in and let me explain all of this context that I've been saying so far. We're talking about what is browser automation. Let me set that to ease and make this super clear for you. So when I'm saying browser automation, I'm talking about a tool that you're using to build automation agnostic to whatever specific tool you're in. This is happening in the browser. And so if you're super technical, you might understand some of this is manipulating DOM elements or things like that. But what I'm saying by this is something you can use to control what's going on your screen when you're in a browser. And there are other apps that will do this, in desktop apps as well, but I'm talking specifically about web apps. So if you're at, Jira in Chrome or in your browser, and you might be like, well, why wouldn't I just use Jira's automation or something like Zapier, which may be something you're more familiar with, that lets you set up things in the back end that says, when something happens in Jira, go do this in Trello or whatever. You might be like, why wouldn't I use those things? And here's a couple reasons. You may not want to do that because using browser automation actually reduces the dependency on your needing any of those other tools to have a feature that you want. So in Jira automation, you're kind of limited to what Atlassian has deemed acceptable triggers and actions on their page. And if they've decided not to integrate with your custom app that you use at your company, you're kind of out of luck. So that's why you don't really want to be dependent on that. You also don't necessarily want to use new apps because you might find that at your company, anytime you introduce a new app, there's a sigh of yet another tool we have to do. We have to have another thing that we open up and look in our browser, and we've got to go open this tab and now open this tab, and I've got to go look in Notion for this, and then I've got to head over to Confluence to update this here, and I got to go update this ticket in GitHub. We don't need another app. We just need all of our apps to talk nicely to each other. Am I right? So that's one other reason too. It's not about replacing Jira. It's not about replacing Trello with one tool to rule them all. It's about just making them all, the ones you're using, talk to each other. And then lastly, browser automation is useful because it's where we work. If you think about it, when was the last time you used Chrome? Or any sort of, you're probably in your browser watching this right now. I would guess that's probably true. And even if you're not using a browser for like all of your work, there's a good chance a lot of it's happening in there. Like you may have a desktop app for your email, or you may have a desktop app for Trello, or, you know, different things like that. But at the end of the day, you're still using your browser, and that's just where we end up doing a lot of stuff. And it's kind of annoying to context switch and say, well, I'm working here in Zendesk answering this question. Now I need to go update this in Jira, or, you know, vice versa. Like I'm here in Jira. Now I need to go add this to a Google Sheet. All that context switching adds up and can make us really unproductive. So that's why you want to use browser automation. And there's a couple different ways you can do that. I, of course, am a little biased in wanting to use PixieBrix because it's the one I'm most familiar with. I work for PixieBrix now, but I actually started using PixieBrix long before I ever worked there, and became such a power user with it that now I'm so excited I get to help other people use it as well. So it's free to get started with. It's, you know, your classic freemium. There's like paid plans and whatnot, but you can get a lot of value out of the free plan. And we have starter templates that can help you to get started building fast. So you're not always having to start from scratch, but you can if you want to. It's also really customizable. And so kind of like I mentioned with this browser automation, being able to work with any tool that you have is really great, because you're not going to be limited to if Jira integrates with this or that. You can integrate with whatever you need to. There's also a really supportive community. As the head of developer relations, you're going to see me over there. That's where I spend a lot of time helping people build their specific use cases and just making their automation dreams come true. We're happy to help you and enable you with all of that. And then you can also test and deploy in minutes. And so rather than building some big complicated app or Chrome extension to do what you need it to do, you can build with PixieBrix and then deploy it to your team, and they don't have to touch anything. They just click activate, and you're good to go. And so if you're ready to try this out, let me show you what I mean, because maybe the dots are coming together, or maybe you're all together like, what does this even mean? What are we talking about? I'm going to close out of the slides and head over to the browser and show you a little bit more about what I mean by this. So the first place I like to start, it's in our marketplace. And in our marketplace is where we have a lot of out-of-the-box automation. So we call them mods, but you can think of them as automations, and you can kind of see different sort of things that you can do here. It's a great way to kind of get some inspiration about, I can replace elements on a page. I can hide things on a page. I can use AI to revise things or ask questions. I can collect input. I can track things. And so it's super useful, but obviously we're all here today because we use Jira and we care about Jira a lot. So two specific marketplace mods that we have out of the box that you don't have to build. You can just start activating and using right now. You can click activate and walk away. You don't have to watch the rest of the build stuff. We've got two mods, one that creates a new Jira issue when you select text, and another one that displays your Jira issues. So I'm going to walk you through what it looks like to activate these and use these. So let's say, like I said, this is built out of the box. We've already built this. All you need to do is head here, click activate. It's going to prompt you to create a PixieBrix account if you haven't already. You'll need to configure an Atlassian service if you have not already. I'm going to show you real quick how to do that right now. You're going to need to go over here and generate an API token. I'm going to actually do this on another screen because you probably shouldn't see me making a token, right? I think that's kind of frowned upon. So, okay, I'm going to copy that. But literally once you go right there, it's going to take you to your space. You're going to get an API token, and you're going to need to use your Jira URL, which if you don't already know that, you can get that from right here. And paste in there. And now you've got your integration. You're all set up. You're ready to go. And so next you need your project key, which you're probably familiar with that in your project. And for mine, it is BDJ. So now I'm going to do that. All right. So now I'm ready to use this, and this is how simple this is, okay? I'm going to select text on a page. I'm going to right-click, and notice that in this context menu, I have PixieBrix, and I have a few other things I can do in here, but notice I've got one that says now create Jira issue. So I'm going to click that, close this sidebar because I don't need that, and it pops up this modal that lets me decide, do I want a task or an epic? And I can give it a title, so I can say, hey, look, I made this. And it's going to automatically grab that selected text in there. And I could do other things, like if I wanted to capture this URL, I could automatically have put that in there. But just, in simple case, this is what it does. I can see it successfully ran the action. And let's see over here. It's going to pop up on my board and say right there, hey, look, I made this. And you can see I've got everything I need right here. I didn't have to have Jira open. I just did so I could show you. So that's super cool. And then the other one that we have is displaying our Jira issues. And so once again, I'm going to click activate. And if you've already signed up by doing the last one, then you won't have to sign up here again. You're already going to be ready to go here, and you'll just need to plug in your configuration. Select that there. Once again, put in the project key, finish activating. And now you're going to have a sidebar. We have a a keyboard shortcut for opening it. If you do Command M, that's going to open this this quick bar that once you click that, once you click that, it's going to open this sidebar now, which shows you all of your Jira issues. So that's pretty cool, huh? It kind of pulls everything in there that you need. You can see what's going on in there. You can create a new one, just like we did with that other modal. This modal appears here. And you can see if there's anything by subtasks, epic, or etc., however you want here. So these are really cool out-of-the-box use cases, right? This is like super interesting. But you might be like, well, what if I want to do a little bit more? Like, what if that's not quite the automation I'm looking for? Maybe you're looking for something like, I actually need to get text from this and I need to go send it somewhere. Or maybe you're like, I actually need to have some templates handy for responding to things in here. And if that's the case, then I got you. I'm going to show you how you can actually build things here in PixieBrix. And so, you ready? If you're ready to get started with that, I'm ready to get started with that. It's super easy, and you might be sitting here like, wait a minute. Okay, we're already like 10 minutes into this session. She's told us what's going on and showed us things. Like, we're going to be able to like actually build things. And the answer is yes, we are. In fact, time permitting, I think I'm going to be able to show you how to build 3 different things that are going to help you automate things in Jira. And since you're learning to build, you'll be able to customize whatever you need to with it. So let me see if my cat can stop participating with me here. And we're going to start now by heading over to talk about building we call them mods, that will scrape an issue. So let's say, for instance, this issue, I want to scrape the information from it. Maybe let's say I want to know, it's assigned to Brittany. I want to know the title and I want to know the description. And rather than having to go somewhere else and copy and paste all of that and link to it, I want to be able to just do one click and it take all of that information and send it wherever I want. And so I'm going to actually show you how to do that. And so if you've already signed up for PixieBrix, you can follow along with me. If you haven't, go ahead and do that now because it's going to be pretty helpful and fun. And again, it's free. So just go to app.pixiebrix.com and you can sign up. It'll walk you through all of that. And once you've done that, you should see, if you click this puzzle piece, you'll see the PixieBrix Chrome extension. Go ahead and pin that just because it's kind of handy to have that up there in your browser. But once you have that, go to go ahead and open an issue in Jira. Go ahead. I'll wait a minute. I'm sure you've got plenty of issues. So go ahead and open that up. And once you're there, you're going to right click anywhere on the page, right? And you see this inspect. If you're a developer, you're probably familiar with this. This is your Chrome DevTools. And so if you've never opened this before, it might open up and look something like this. And I prefer to have it docked at the bottom. That works a little bit better with PixieBrix. So click those 3 dots in that top right corner and just bring it down to the bottom dock here. And now look across all of your tabs. You probably have a bunch here. Click on PixieBrix. It's typically going to be the last. And you'll see a screen that looks a little bit like this. You may not have as many of these over here, or maybe you do. But this is where you'll have all of these sort of, these are your mods. These are automations that you can build. And every mod starts with what I like to call a starter brick. And this is effectively how you trigger your mods, right? So it's kind of like, how do you want to kick off your automation? And so I've already, shown you some ones where you can select text and right click. That's kind of a nice one for doing that with. You can also use the quick bar, which is the one that you saw when I used my keyboard shortcut to open this up. You could also create a button on a page, so I could duplicate one of these and basically add my own button that does things. I could have a sidebar panel, which appears when I click that PixieBrix icon. There's lots of different things. I could even have it automatically trigger based on a page load. But I'm just going to do one here, and I'm going to call this send issue. Could be, any number of things, but I'm gonna call it send issue. And you can already see when I right click now on the page, I see send issue right here. And so whatever this text that I have here in title is what's going to show up here. And now anytime I click this, it's going to execute anything that follows after that. And so super, super handy, right? You're like, well, now what do I want it to do? And so that's where we add bricks. So bricks are, you can think of them as like functions that we chain together to put together workflows. So if I'm, let's say the use case we're working on now, I want to grab data from this and go send it somewhere, for instance, to a Google Sheet. Well, I'm going to need a brick that actually gets the data from the page. I need to have a function that does that. And then I'll add another brick that sends it somewhere. So let's start with the one that gets data from the page. Click that and you can see all of the different bricks that we've got available. There's tons of them. I can't spend forever going through all of them, but I'm going to use the extract from page. And what that lets me do is it lets me specify CSS or jQuery selectors to scrape elements from. If you're not familiar with that, don't worry. A lot of the times you can just go here and say, all right, I want to look for the name. You can click this mouse button here and it will highlight different areas on your screen and you can select different elements for it to scrape. It will automatically grab some selectors. Sometimes it's better at that than others. In this case, I actually think that is the right one that I want to use. So I'm going to do that. But I also want to grab a few other elements, so I can click Add Property to grab more. So I want to grab the description. And I think when I was playing with this before, I found that's actually not really the one that I want to use. I think I actually need to use this one. You can confirm if it's pulling the right thing, because notice when I put that in and it turned purple over here. So that's a good way to check and make sure it's actually like pulling what you're expecting it to pull. And then let's add one more because I want to grab the assignee. And once again, you can click it, but I did a little bit of pre-homework to help us find these right selectors because sometimes that can be just a bit tricky. And so now let's just run this and see what we get. So I'm going to click Send Issue. You can see that it gives me an alert. I've successfully ran the action. And in this fourth panel over here, back in my page editor, I see output data. And if you click that caret, it's going to show you exactly what we got from it. And so it successfully scraped exactly what I was looking for. It got the name, it got the description, and the assignee. So now I'm able to reference this output in other bricks. And so for instance, I'm going to add a row to Google Sheet. That's where I want to send it. You may want to send it somewhere else. We have ones for Airtable. If you were creating a new Jira issue, you could create a Jira issue, a Trello card. You'd send it wherever you want. And if we don't have a brick that does that, you could use our HTTP request brick that, if you're familiar with APIs, it's very easy to use. Specify an endpoint, post, you can create an object to pass the data that you want there. And that's where it's going to actually send it. And so if you're wanting to send it to, any sort of like Microsoft tools or anything, you can use that. But I'm just going to stick with the simple example here of Google Sheets. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select where I want to send it. So I actually made a spreadsheet called Scrape Jira Issues to a Google Sheet. Let me bring that up. Issues to a Google Sheet, scrape. I really should have had this up, huh? Google, here. We're just going to go to Google Drive. I want to show you the spreadsheet. Definitely should have had this up, but you're welcome. Nope. Drive. Here, come on. This is how we go. Let's see. Here we go. All right. So this is what the spreadsheet looks like, right? So it's, effectively collecting whatever we need here, get what I want here. You can see I've already done a few test examples here, but let's go back and actually test this out. All right, so it's got the spreadsheet. I make sure to grab the right tab, and you can see it already has grabbed those headers from it. And so now we just need to map those values in here. And so there's super easy ways to do that, right? I can literally just copy that icon and go over here. I can go to data name, data description, data assignee, and then you might be like, wait a minute, how did we get the URL? We didn't get the URL. I'm going to show you. Go over here to context menu and that very first starter brick. And if you notice in the output, it actually says input, but you can also see this in, a couple different preview or a couple different sections, but this is where you can see what you actually get every single time you run the mod. You basically get kind of context about the page it's running on. And so if you want the URL, aka the link of this issue, you're going to click that button and it's going to copy that path. And so now we've got that whole path here. So let's just, let's try this from the top. PixieBrix, send issue. So what it's done now, in seconds, it scraped the page, it extracted the data we wanted, and it added a row to Google Sheet. Let's check. You can see here, we've got everything we need right here. And now let's try it on another issue just to make sure it's working across the board. Hey, look, new Jira issue from selected text. Right-click, PixieBrix, send issue. Scrape the page, and let's head over here and see. Boom, we've got it. Hey, look, unassigned, and the URL. So this is a great way to be able to take text that you have and send it anywhere that you need it to go. This is going to be super helpful for being able to connect this with other tools without ever having to open another tab or open anything else up. All right, so I want to show you how to build something else. I was chatting with my friends, my lovely Jira friends, Alex and Rodney and Jimmy, about what are like some common things that people are doing in Jira, because I wanted to make sure we're, coming up with the right sort of use cases here of what you can build and what you can do. So one thing that it seemed pretty common that people want to do is they want to have description templates. And so I have a bug. Someone wants to come in here and report a bug. There's usually a bunch of different things you need to add in the description, right? There's various things that you want to be able to reference, you want to be able to access and answer people's questions, or give all of the right context, but you don't want to necessarily have to remember it off the top of your head. Having templates for filling these out and what they should be is super handy, and you don't want to have to go somewhere else to access it. You don't want to have to go find, a Confluence page and bring it in or whatever that is. You want to be able to do it right here. And so you can actually do that with PixieBrix. So rather than needing, one app for making templates, one app for connecting with, Google Sheets or whatever you want to do, you could just use one app and build the automation that you want. So this, again, reduces your dependencies on needing multiple apps to do things. You don't need yet another app. You can just use one app to do this. So I'm going to show you how to make a sidebar that shows description or templates that you can use to go ahead and make that process easier. So back here in our page editor, let's go ahead and click add. And this time I want a sidebar panel because I'm going to want it to show up over here and give me everything I want here. So I'm just going to say templates, say description, or we'll just say templates here. Again, I probably only want it to show up on Atlassian, but if I wanted, on Jira's, on my site, but if I wanted to show up somewhere else, I could click all URLs and it would automatically set that for me. I can specify other sort of details here if I need to, but we're gonna probably leave that as is. So next, I'm gonna go over here to this, getting ahead of myself, not render document. First, I wanna go fetch my templates, and I have grabbed some templates. I've made them in here in a Google Sheet. You might have them somewhere else. So just like I showed you how to push data to a Google Sheet, you can do the exact same thing over. You can add an HTTP request for fetching them wherever they are, whether they're in, some other sort of tool. As long as there's an API available, you can fetch that, and then we can manipulate it and render it however we need to. But again, I'm going to stick with Google Sheets, my go-to, and I'm going to select that sheet. I think it's this one. Yep. And now I'm going to say, go fetch everything in that, just like this. Well, I don't even have to say that. It's going to do that automatically. If I wanted to just do something in here specific, for instance, maybe I actually had another column over here that was like type, and I had like 3 or 4 different ones for bug reports, or 3 or 4 different ones for feature requests, or whatever it was. I could then craft a query here that says, hey, look in this column and only, have ones that contain X, Y, Z. But I actually want to return them all, so I'm going to do that. So let's just now practice and see what this looks like. I'm going to click render panel and see what we're doing so far. All right, you can see it's connected to my Google Sheet and it has returned an array of objects of each row in that Google Sheet. So that's pretty good. Now I just need to inject that here in my sidebar. So what I'm going to do now is I want to go into my sidebar. So this is our render document brick, and this is where you style the sidebar and you make it actually, pull what you need it to pull. And so we're going to style, whatever here. You click it on the side. This is my header. Let's just say I want to call that, templates, and then maybe I want to give some text. Got some boilerplate over here that I've used. Click a template below to copy it to your clipboard. Whatever you kind of want to do there. And then what I actually want to do, before I even get down to this, I'm going to go back up here. I'm going to add a JQ brick because I want to clean this up a little bit. I basically want it to just return the templates here. So so you can use a JQ filter for manipulating and transforming the data, because basically what I want is, right now we've got an array of objects, and I really just want like an array of strings. So this query is basically, that's what it's doing, right? It's normalizing everything to be, and this one actually incorporates if I were to have a search bar, which is a little bit more advanced. I'm not going to show that right here, but basically what it's going to do is it's going to be like, okay, just return an array with these. So and I need to pass it the data, so I need to pass it row. So let's go ahead and render panel and see what comes through here. So you can see now it's exactly what we had up there. It's just cleaned up by, instead of, notice how this had text value, this is literally just a big array of strings. So now I'm going to go back over here, and I want to add a list. I want to tell it to iterate through all of those different things. And so I want it to say, I'm going to click this inside element here, and I'm going to click for list. And I'm going to click right where it says list, and you're going to see that I can pass it an array. And that's where I'm going to pass it transformed, and that's going to pass it this array that I've got from here. I can say what to do for each one. I'm just going to call it template. And now, let me render panel and you can see what I mean. It's going to do, you can see I've got 3 sections of text that say paragraph text, markdown exported, blah, blah, blah. You can see that I have that because I have created, it's created that element for each item that's returned in that array. So there's 3 items in that array, so there's 3 things of text. So I actually want to do a row, and I'm going to click this and add a button inside that row. And so I'm going to call it template. And for the button label, I'm actually just going to reference the text value of that, which is, we've already said, you know, each element can be referenced with this variable. So I'm just going to say add template. So now let's render panel. You can see they're on top of each other, but I've got 3 buttons here. And if I want to style a bit more of this, I can scroll down here. Let's say I want to give it some top margin, maybe a little bit, space them out a bit. I can style the buttons, so maybe I want it to be more like this, a little subtle, less aggressive there. So that's kind of one way I can do that. And now I can see all my templates here, but they're not useful just sitting there. I need to apply some sort of use to them. And so there's a couple different things you can do from here, right? You may have noticed when I made button, it added this section to the render document. And any bricks that I add here, it's going to automatically, like when I click that button, it's going to run them. And so the world's kind of my oyster here, right? I could, if I wanted to, I could specify setting an input value and go through that text field, and I could say, hey, in the description, I want you to open that up and inject this text here. I could do that. I actually had a bit of an issue playing with some of the selectors, and I'd have to dig into it a bit more to actually get that kind of working. So what I ended up doing that I think is just about as good is I added a copy to clipboard brick. And what you can do here is specify that template text. And so now when I run this, it's going to open these up. And when I click this, it's going to copy it to my clipboard. So then I just open and paste it in here. So I didn't have to go to my spreadsheet, find it in my spreadsheet, click that cell, click copy, come back over to this tab and paste. I literally can just click the one that I want. It's in my clipboard and I can paste it in here and I'm good to go. So that's a great way to keep templates handy. And another thing about it, it doesn't require a developer to update. So one thing that I remember when I was working on an internal tools team at my former company is that it was always a pain when someone wanted to change a template for something, because you need a developer to go either update that template in GitHub or like go find the code where it has that template and update that. And it's annoying to require a developer to do that when it's oftentimes someone else is like setting the actual content of that. And that's the beauty of hosting it somewhere else, like in a spreadsheet or something. I could say, you know, Brittany has another template. I can literally add something in here, and every time I run that mod, it's going to fetch what is in that Google Sheet with no developer required. That's just out of the box what it's going to do when we say in here, look up everything in there. You could even, you know, if you wanted like a status of one, this is where you could use those filters to maybe have like a, you know, status, and it could be like approved. And then you could go up here and you could say, hey, filter rows. You might have to like you could say filter rows. We just want to return ones that are approved. And so let's say I'm back over here. Maybe that, you know, feature request one hasn't been approved yet. Maybe I would say that it's review or whatever. So when I could do that, I'm not going to do that right now, but that just shows that you could set this up so that it returns everything or a specific subset of data, giving your team who makes the templates control while also not needing to get developers involved. So that's another use case. But I actually want to show you one more that might be useful if you're interested in building more of these types of things. I've already shown you 2 things you can build with PixieBrix, saving you other extensions, but let me show you a third. So let's say, for instance, that maybe you're waiting on Atlassian Intelligence and you haven't gotten it yet. And you would love to be able to take some sort of issue, like someone says, help, come back over here, someone says, help, my order is late. Why has it been delayed? Let's say you're getting, questions like that. And what you would love is to be able to have Atlassian Intelligence take this and answer it for you. But maybe you don't have access to that yet. Maybe your team's not able to use that for whatever reason. And maybe you're like, I'm already using this PixieBrix thing for some other stuff. Can I use it for that? And the answer is yes. So this is actually one of our more popular use cases, not even just in Jira, but you can do this from anywhere in the web. And so I'm going to show you how to build what we call like an AI recommender or KB assist type of thing. So what you're going to want to do is, let's say you've got a knowledge base defined somewhere. We have ours in like an example Google Sheet here. It's kind of got your questions and answers and things like that. What we can do with PixieBrix is we can select some text and say, hey, go look at this Google Sheet and see what this selected text relates to. Return a question and then return that answer, template a response, and let me copy that to my clipboard and respond to somebody here. So I'm going to actually show you an example of how to do that. So once again, I'm going to click this add. I'm going to click context menu, and I'm just going to call this, let's say, find an answer. Once again, I want this to work with selected text. I actually want this to work on any page. I don't, sure, it'd be great. I'm getting a lot of requests in Jira maybe, so that's super helpful, but maybe I actually want to be able to do that, other places as well. So I'm going to do that. And then the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to want to actually go look up all of my data in, that Google Sheet. I'm going to want to return everything I've got in here and put it in a format for ChatGPT to query. So once again, you're probably used to this at this point. Fetch it here. And once again, I'm just going to call this out. I've called this on all the others. You might be like, I don't use Google Sheets. We'll use the HTTP request brick and go fetch the data from wherever you have it, whether your knowledge base is in Zendesk or some other sort of tool like that. You can totally do that. We're going to go ahead and return everything. As I showed you on the other one, you could specify if you only wanted to return some. For instance, maybe you're actually only interested in returning a specific category. We're going to go ahead and return them all. And so the next thing we actually need to do is ask ChatGPT to create a chat response. We're going to ask ChatGPT to do this. And you can use our OpenAI integration. You don't have to use your own, or you can connect and use your own if you would prefer. But you're welcome to use ours. And all we need to do is give it a prompt here. So we're going to go into messages. I'm going to minimize this for a second to make it a bit bigger. We're going to give it a system prompt, and I've been using something kind of like this. You're welcome to customize it how you see fit, but basically I'm saying, you're a helpful AI knowledge base article recommender. Here's the title of, these different articles that you may want to reference. And if you're not familiar with this is Nunjug's templating language. All I'm doing is saying, hey, for each, I'm actually going to rename this output to rows. For each row in this array, so remember, once again, when we run this, it's going to actually return a whole output, an array of our knowledge base. We're going to say, hey, for each one of those, just show the question. So I'll actually run this real quick, and you can see what the output is. Let's just see, because I want you to be able to see what I'm actually passing to it with that text. So my order is late. Why has it been delayed? Find an answer. Let's check this output over here. First, I'm going to show you what rendered, and you can see this is what we're actually sending ChatGPT. So if I go into messages, I'm actually sending it literally a list of just the questions. And the reason I'm doing this is because it's kind of inefficient if I were to send ChatGPT every single thing in the spreadsheet. I'm really asking it to look for questions that match that question. And so that's why it's a bit more of an efficient way to do that. And so that's what's going on there. And I'm saying provide the most relevant article to that. We actually have some documentation on our site that shows how you can update this. If you're like, I actually wanted to provide the top 3 because I don't trust it to do just one. You just change your prompt a little bit, and I'll show you a link on our website for us to do that. But click here, click add item, because now we want to actually pass it that selected text. And to pass what text has been selected, once again, head up here to your output on your on your context menu, this first mod here, and you can see selection text. It actually grabs what text has been selected. So I'm going to go over here. I'm going to paste that in. And so ChatGPT is now going to, when I run this, it's going to try to find a match. So go up here. Let's just select that again. Run it once more. Find an answer. And now when we look at the output over here, you can see it has looked and said, oh, this is probably the most relevant question based on what they said. And yes, it is. And ChatGPT is pretty good about guessing this. Like, I had the text being pretty close, but it's pretty good at understanding intent. So if someone's like, why has it been delayed? Or like, where is my order? Or, something like that. It's pretty good at figuring out like, oh, it might be late. So let's do that. And so I'm actually going to rename this output to ChatGPT output just to make it a little bit clearer so we can reference. And then the next thing that I want to do is I'm going to use, some use this in another one, but I'm going to use the JQ-Brick to kind of transform this data a little bit. And I'm going to use this filter. Effectively, this is like a fancy language for, hey, go take what ChatGPT said is the answer. So it said, my order's running late. And now go back through all of this data and make me an object of just that one. Like, I don't want an array of 68 items. I really just want an array of one item that tells me that and the question and the article. And so that's exactly what this filter does. We just click this to create an object, and I just need to define the rows, which is obviously the data we've got from Google Sheets. And then I want to define the match. And that is going to be my output from ChatGPT. So again, I can get that from down here. By copying and pasting this. At the moment, it's going to be transformed instead, so I might need to actually like run that again. So if I've changed the output, so PixieBrix, find an answer, but you'll see it'll come back through now as ChatGPT. So again, I can copy that path. Just got to keep clicking in there. I can copy that path, and you can see it matches that exactly. And so since I've already run this, though, you'll see what I get from it is now I've got an object here that just has that question and the answer to that and what I need for that. All right, and so now what I'm going to do is I actually want to display this answer. And so I'm going to add my display temporary information, and I'm going to make a sidebar that shows me that. So I'm going to say answer, put whatever you want here, obviously, and then click render document. And just like you've seen me kind of tinker around with that before, we're going to click over here, make some edits, say recommended answer, change that. I'm going to click in here, and then I've already got like some boilerplate stuff that I use again, but you're welcome to use, kind of whatever here. And this is where you can reference output from other places. So I'm going to rename this. I forgot I've been calling it article object just to be a bit more clear, trying to get better about like renaming my outputs. And so basically what I'm saying here in this text is, hey, sorry to hear about this experience, got some boilerplate. And then I'm grabbing specifically what ChatGPT said was the right question, getting a link to that and getting the answer here. And now when I run this, find an answer, scroll down here, you can see it's creating all of this in the sidebar. And so I've got, I've gone from question to having an answer in literally seconds. And so this saves your team a ton of time. But, at this point, you could highlight all of that and copy and paste it. But I'm going to do you one better and show you how to add a button that will let you do that. So click these 3 dots right here. We're going to add another element. We're going to add a button. Click the button. And, I just been calling it C2C, but you can just call this copy or whatever you want the text to be. You can obviously style this again however you want. You can make it full width. You can, do whatever you want here. I'm going to do my usual, giving it a bit of margin just to help it not be so right on top of the text. Click Show Live Preview, and you're going to see there's a button. But now we need to tie functionality to that button. So I'm going to click this. I'm going to bring back that handy copy to clipboard brick. And then I've actually changed the prompt just slightly, or not the prompt, the text that I put in here just slightly because I don't really want to use Markdown here. I just want to like actually copy the link there. And so now what I'm going to do though is I'm going to show you this working. Let me move this a little bit more slowly here. Let me go back, render, show live preview here. So now I've got an answer and I've got a button and I can see now when I want to come back and respond to them, it's all right there. I can just paste that. And once again, if you're always running this in Jira, you can play around with some of the set input value and create a selector for that. And then when you click copy, it'll just inject it right in there. You just need to hit save, review it and hit save. I don't mind really hitting copy and then Command V. That works for me. But depending on what your team wants to do, you may want to do something different. So I hope that gives you some more kind of inspiration and ideas of the different sort of things you can do here, because the opportunity really is endless to build whatever you want here. And so let's say you're these are really cool mods. This is fantastic. I want to use this and share. How do I share this with my team? All you need to do is package this up. So you could say, click add to mod. You're like, aren't I making a mod? We need to work on the wording a bit, but basically you're just making a package here. So you're going to say create new mod. And let's say, you just want to call this Jira, KB assist or something like that, and find answer a Jira ticket or whatever you want to call this. Call it, whatever. And so click create. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go to app.pixiebrix.com. If you don't already have a team, you can go over here and create one. And so this is, typical tool. You can imagine how this works. You name a team, you make a scope, whatever you want to do, you save it with whoever. And then you're going to go back over here to your extension console. And I've already forgotten what I called this. What did I call this? Answer a Jira ticket. So I'm going to go over here, open my extension console, and I'm going to say find or answer a Jira ticket. And I see this right here. So I'm going to click these 3 buttons, and I'm going to share with teams. And I would just select the team that I want to share with from here, copy this link, and I can share. And now anybody who I share that link with, they'll be prompted to sign up for a PixieBrix account. They get it. That's going to work out of the box. They don't have to, do any sort of configuration of things. Another common way you can go about this is, let's say you don't even want your team to have to do that. You don't even want them to have to, click a link and go activate. You just want this running on their machines. We actually have ways for you to do that as well, and you can automatically deploy the PixieBrix Chrome extension. And even more than that, you can automatically deploy specific mods. And so if you go into deployments, I can go into so much more information about this, but at a high level, I can go to deployments and I can say, I can select that mod I just built. I can say which team and members I want to share it with and what I want them to do. I can define any configurations, for instance, the Google Sheet that I want everyone to be able to use that with. I don't want them to have to, pick a Google Sheet. Instead, I'd rather specify that ahead of time for them. You can do that and click deploy, and it's just going to be there for them when they go to open their machines. So I'm going to pop back into my slides. I've shown some examples. We've built one together. Hopefully you're super excited by this like I am. And I'm hoping you've thought of even more ideas at this point of various workflows that this could help you with. That's kind of the beauty of PixieBrix, is that, yeah, I'm showing you things and you might be like, yeah, that's kind of me, it's kind of not me. But the point is you can kind of piece together all of these bricks to make any sort of actions and automations that you want. And again, this isn't just for Jira, it's for any sort of tool that you want to use in your web app or in your web browsers. So yeah, so if you're wondering, okay, well, what's next? How do I actually, get started with this? I definitely would recommend you head to our website. We've just launched this new template section. And if you, for instance, you mentioned about being able to add multiple or reference multiple things in the KB Assist sort of thing where, you recommended articles. I want to see more than just one. I walk you through exactly how you need to do that in this article here. And so head over to templates. You'll be able to activate it. You won't even have to build it from scratch like I just showed you how to do. You can start where we're at and change your source. You can change how many articles are returned, whatever you'd like to do with that. And so I definitely recommend checking that out and getting started there. There's also different templates for things like if you want to build a checklist, for instance, let's say you maybe want to show a PR checklist before your team submits a PR or something like that. We have templates showing you how to get started and do that. Next, I'd encourage you to join the community because that's obviously a great place for you to get help and support. And I'm very happy to help you with building or inspiring anything you need to do in Jira. If you're like, can I do this or that in Jira? Come to the community and ask. I'd be super happy to show you if that's possible and how we can build that and make that work. And then lastly, if you're like, this is actually super interesting and I really want to build more, we have a certification. It's totally free, easy to go through. It takes just under an hour or two, depending on your skill level. But it'll show you more of these principles for building with PixieBrix and using ChatGPT, so you can kind of build any sort of automation that you want. So yeah, that's it. That's our action items, and I'm really, really glad you all showed up. Thank you for watching, and I hope this was informative and you learned something. I'd love to stay in touch. I'd love to nerd out about Trello and Jira and just any sort of automation stuff that you want to talk about, even if it's like native Jira automation or Zapier or other sort of tools that you use for automation. It's really fun for me to be able to find ways to connect tools and make everything work together. So definitely connect with me on LinkedIn. This QR code will take you right to my LinkedIn page. Feel free to do the whole, pick up your phone and scan it and, do the whole thing that we do. So feel free to go through that. I will be waiting for you on the other side, ready to accept. And also you can join us in, like I said, that's the link for the PixieBrix Slack community. It's super easy to join. No, I promise I won't hound you every day and ask if you're using PixieBrix or not. It's a great place if you're just looking to connect with me and learn more about automation. And then lastly, I wanted to share my Trello Substack. So if you're here, you might have been here expecting me to talk a little bit more about Trello because maybe you know that I'm a big Trello nerd. I actually have a newsletter every week that I update and share fun and exciting things to do in Trello and any news and stuff going on there. So make sure to check that out if you're interested. But yeah, thank you so much for joining and participating. I really would love to hear from you. I mean it. Please reach out to me. Let's nerd out about automation together. And yeah, I hope you enjoy the next sessions that are coming up. Thanks.